back to another episode of Barn Table Talks. I'm your host, Benji Bonhay, here with my co-host, Travis Corman. And as again, we have a very special guest on today, Don Lowe from the Greensburg Chamber of Commerce. Don, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We're
Nervous,
happy.
but excited.
We're very happy to have you on the show.
Hopefully the nerves go away.
Yeah.
But we're going to start it off like we always do with a little question of the day. This is kind of coming out of nowhere. But what is one of your favorite childhood memories and why?
Oh gosh, Christmas, 110% Christmases. And so my dad's side of the family was a very large family. He was born in Minnesota, grew up in Wisconsin, and there were 7 of them. So he was one of 7.
Wow, big family.
And we were spread out all over the United States. So we had very, I wouldn't say strict, but a lot of traditions that happened during the Christmas season. And we would always celebrate Christmas Eve with my mom's side and do a Christmas Eve candlelight service. We had the same foods, which I have carried on with our family. So that's kind of fun. And then Christmas morning, Santa would have come and, just the magical moments of Christmas. Then the day after Christmas, we piled into the car and we drove to Wisconsin. And so it was from our house, it was about a 5.5 hour drive through downtown Chicago. So you can imagine what that's like with 3 screaming kids in the car. And there was usually some special stops along the way for food. There was in Sheboygan, there was a restaurant that had specialty milkshakes. And so if we were really, really good in the car, we got to stop and get these milkshakes. But the best part was once we got to Wisconsin, that entire family stayed in my grandma's house.
Oh, wow.
So I have no idea how many of us there were at that time, but with 7 siblings, everybody had kids and spouses. And so it was, all the kids were lined up on the floors, sleeping in sleeping bags, and the adults got the bedrooms. And then, it was just a chain of events to get the shower, and there was a basement, and just there just is so many nostalgic memories for me with Christmas time. I can smell oranges at Christmas because we would pass oranges around, and we had assorted chocolates that would come in, and the big thing to do was to pass the chocolate trays around, and you couldn't touch. Once you touched, that was your chocolate, but it was to guess, that was before the day when they had all the names of the chocolates written inside of the lid. And so it was this big guessing game on what chocolate you got. And then everybody would kind of reveal and want somebody else's chocolate. And then the chocolates got passed around again. So just some of those vivid memories for me. More so than the chocolates or the oranges, it was just being with family. And that was family that I only got to see once a year, twice a year if we were lucky. And that just was because of distance. So Christmas for me is just very heavy laden with tradition and family. And we have tried to pass a lot of some of those ideas on to our kids and use those with our own family. And it's interesting to me because now those are my kids' favorite parts of the holidays.
That's awesome. That's very special. That is awesome.
So do you let all your siblings come stay at your house then? And
no.
You're losing a part of this. You know that, right?
Hopefully they are not watching. No, always invited. And that's for my kids, their nieces and nephews or their cousins, that's their favorite part, right, of anything is getting together with the younger ones. They tend to be the older ones in the families, and getting together with them and just that playtime and letting loose and being a kid. There
was no worries at that point.
Right.
No worries.
Yep.
Well, Travis, what do you got?
Mine's not centered around a holiday. I guess mine's more centered around probably just in general growing up. I loved when I was a kid being able to go ride my bike over to my grandparents' house. And then from just working, on the farm with my grandpa he ran a trucking company for a long time, but he'd let me grease the fifth wheels of the semis and stuff. And you know how dirty I got doing that type of thing? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was not helping in any sense, right? But, I got it done, and I had a blast doing it, but I'm sure he could have done it 10 times faster and not had to clean me up afterwards, right? But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And, going on trucking trips with him, just the same thing, spending time. I mean, that's the stuff that I think you probably remember the most. But I'd say kicking back to days, like that was probably some of the fun.
That's awesome. Yeah.
What about you?
I'd say similar to family. I'd say in the backyard with my brother, growing up playing some kind of sport. I don't know. We were always outside doing something, and I'd say that was probably some of my favorite memories, just being with him and growing up. And once you go off to college and everything, you kind of see how great of a time you had growing up, and you miss those times. But that's definitely on my top list. So.
We were just talking about that with somebody actually, I think just yesterday, maybe the day before, that when we grew up, we had some acreage and there was a woods behind our house, and we would leave home at 9 a.m. We were out in the woods. Nobody could have seen us or known, what was happening out there, but building forts and walking the creek and pretending and hours until it was dark, and then we came in. And growing up, we did a lot of outdoor play too.
We had the same thing, like where we lived down home. Like, we would just take off for the woods, and we knew, like, if there was an emergency, Mom would start hitting a car horn. If you heard a car horn going off, you had to come immediately. But, like, they'd turn on the back porch light of the house, and you just every once in a while walk up and check to see if it was on, and that was your signal you needed to come back up to the house. But
there you go. Yep.
They would be, they'd get fed up with us, and they'd send us to the woods. Just go play.
Yep.
And I don't want to go. And you had so much fun.
So much fun.
Life before
You'd come
phones,
back.
right?
Oh, yeah. You'd come back, and you'd be like, I don't want to go back in.
Yeah.
But absolutely. Those are...
That's awesome, yeah.
We're probably getting reprimanded for trying to do that with your kids now, or at least someone finding out about it. So.
Well, Dawn, you want to give us a little bit of a background about you and what you do, and everything around that?
Sure. And then you're going to quickly ask yourselves why you asked me to be on this podcast. But absolutely. So I grew up in Indiana, a couple of hours away from Greensburg, and was very, very involved with sports growing up. I was also in show choir, and thought when I was younger that I was going to be on a stage performing somewhere. So like my episodes out into the woods, a lot of them were performances, down on some flat rock in the creek bed.
Sounds like my daughter is what this sounds like.
But that dream quickly got smashed, and I realized that God did not grant me the vocal cords that are needed to be on stage and perform, or the stage presence. So then, going into college, like I said, I was very, very sports-minded, very competitive, and that kind of became my route for college. I was very specific about wanting to go a certain path, but it had to involve sports. So I played volleyball in college, and I was going to play softball as well, but through a series of back injuries, I was told that if I wanted to have kids in the future and be able to play with them, get up and down off the floor, pick them up, that I should probably put my sports career on hold, which was, I wasn't getting paid to play anyway. It was the opportunity that was enticing. So graduated with a degree in advertising and public relations.
From where?
Marietta College in southeastern Ohio.
Okay.
It's a smaller D3 school, and that's actually where our oldest is attending now. So that's
awesome.
kind of been fun to watch, not only just the school's transition, but to watch her kind of follow in my footsteps and see a little bit of that life out there, and just gorgeous country out there. So she's super blessed. So yeah, sports management was one of my minors, as well as leadership. And so I continued a lot with that sports theme, and you'll kind of see that as my life evolves, that has always been there somehow, some form.
Still a passion.
Still, very much so. So then I grew up, got married, had 4 kids.
How'd you find Greensburg?
So that's an interesting story. That's a whole nother podcast in itself. But I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I was actually in an internship through a company based out of Indianapolis that was an ag-based internship. So it was Agribusiness Group at the time, and we were on a contract retainer, to go down and sample crop injury in the Panhandle of Texas. And so I was on this crew as an intern, as a paid intern, which was important because back then internships
Right.
were few and far between
Right.
to be paid. So they flew us down there. We sampled, and our job was pretty much to bring that crop injury or the plant itself, and then we secured it, and then we shipped it off. We had to have like dry ice on the trailers, and we had four-wheelers and whatever. And so we made sure that the documentation of those plants was on par, and then we shipped it off, and then that's kind of the only part that we were kind of the grunt work or the laborers. So through that internship, I was working with a gentleman who is actually from Greensburg, from Decatur County. And he was like, hey, I've got a buddy that lives here. Why don't we meet up for dinner? That is now my future, that became my future husband. And so I'm married to Mark Lowe, and he was down in the Panhandle of Texas, and that was the friend that we met for dinner. And one thing led to another, which led to another, and yeah, marriage, 4 kids later, and moved back to this area.
So you grew up, you said you're from Indiana. We're at in Indiana.
Clinton County.
Clinton County.
Yep.
So that's south.
Northwest.
Oh, normally people from south say they're from Clinton, or they name the county. They normally.
So think the cities of Frankfort and Lafayette.
Okay. Yeah.
So not too far from Purdue University. Yeah, just south of Tippecanoe County.
So you guys went all the way to Texas to meet.
Correct.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Correct.
That's a
Yep.
cool story.
Yep.
That's a cool story.
There's a lot of more details that are really fun too, but those are probably better spoken off camera.
I knew we should have filled the glasses with wine.
Right?
We should have put them in wine.
He's like rethinking this.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man.
So then you got married. Yeah,
We did. We got married. We lived in Texas for the first, I don't even know.
He was working down there?
He was working down
Okay.
there, yep. Lived there through the birth of our first 3 kids.
What part of Texas?
The Panhandle. So Dalhart was the city. It's the northwestern corner part of the Panhandle. And we were in a really unique location. We could have been in the mountains within an hour. We were at a lake within an hour.
Oh, wow.
We were at more of the deserty plateau, areas through that Panhandle, going down to Amarillo, and then Lubbock was another couple hours south. So yeah, Cadillac Ranch, if you're familiar with that, just about an hour and 10 minutes away. So interestingly enough, the area that we lived in was pretty remote. It was a small town. It had 2 counties that went through the middle of this town, so it was pretty unique in that regard. And we hospitaled 88 miles from there. Our town did have a hospital that was a smaller community hospital, and then when we had our children, we drove 88 miles. So you can imagine if you have been through that,
Yeah.
what
I haven't, but I can imagine
that might bring on. So
wow.
88 miles from home was the first, the closest mall. We were about 42 miles from the nearest Walmart. So it was different. We had a grocery store, and we had a home goods, tractor supply type of store. But other than that, you had to drive.
And you had to plan ahead.
You did. And it wasn't just like, hey, I've got to run to the grocery.
No.
It was
Wow.
oh my gosh, I need to go and buy $400 worth of things to make that an advantageous trip. So, yeah.
Cool. Fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
So we had three of our kids were born in Texas. And then we were expecting our 4th when we moved back home. So we moved back home and had our 4th. So we currently have, it's girl, boy, girl. And they are currently, 20.
This is on record if you get this wrong.
I know.
Pressure's on.
20 years old, 19, 16, and 15. And so those first 2 are about 17 months apart. if you've ever wanted twins, that's about as close as you can get to having twins without actually having to
twins.
had twins. Yeah. And then there's about a 3-year gap. And then the younger two are 17 months apart as well. Not planned by us, planned by God. So I think it was, God has a sense of humor. And I think at that point in our lives, he just pointed at us and laughed. I was like, try that
Different
on
plan.
for size, right? Yeah. So no, it was great. So when Kirkley, who is our youngest, was born, our oldest was 5.5 years old. So we had 4 kids, 5 and under, which was a whole lot of work. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. So I love our chaos.
The first 5 years are probably the hardest, right?
Oh, I look back on their lives and I say it all the time. I think elementary.
Yeah.
I love watching the kids grow and learn and the development stages. But I think those were the years for me anyway, where it was the most exhausting. And I say that like heartfelt. I mean, like I have loved every stage of having kids. Now they're a little bit older, and so the dynamic is different. They're hanging with you, and you're talking their language, and they're looking at you funny because you just said, whatever slang phrase that they use. And like, you can't say that. I'm like, well, I just did because I hear you say it 24/7. I don't know. It's just different, and it's fun. So yeah.
Well, good. So then, when you got back here, you guys moved back to Greensburg.
We first moved up in the Clinton County area. We were closer to my family.
Okay.
And then through a series of some things, Mark's father got very sick, and we wanted to help out and be a little bit closer. So we moved here to Decatur County and now live in the home that his mom and dad used to live in.
I gotcha. So then, did Mark's dad, did he farm? Or...
Yeah.
Is that what Mark does now then, or what?
No. So yeah, there was a lot of questions in that.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I do
so
that.
The family does, and there was land that the family was a part of. Mark's dad sold tractors. For a portion of what's now Lowe's Pellets and Grain, there was a tractor portion to that, and so he was involved with that part of the business, and then got bought out and sold his piece of that. So we are no longer personally a part of Lowe's Pellets and Grain, and then we live on, I don't know, about 45 acres, some of which is tillable farm ground, and we don't personally farm it ourselves. Yeah.
I gotcha.
So we have actually show pigs at our house, and that's what our son is involved with. So
cool.
A little bit of the farm life
redefined. Yes.
Yeah.
Clean it up and
Yeah.
There you go.
That's awesome. So how'd you stumble upon the Chamber of Commerce, I guess? Like, how'd you end up there? So
yeah, one of the first jobs that I had in Decatur County, not the first, but one of the first, I worked for the Decatur County Family YMCA for, I think, about 5 years as their marketing director. And at the end of those, or kind of at the end of that 5-year segment, I took a break and just became a stay-at-home mom again for about a year and a half. And just on a happenstance introduction, I was approached by the current director of the chamber at that time and asked if I was looking for a job. And I said, nope, not at all. Pretty happy where I'm at. And he said, well, why don't you come in and talk to me? And I thought, well, that can't hurt, right? So I did go in and talk to him. And I was like, maybe I would like doing this. And kind of came out of that stay-at-home mom retirement phase and took on the role of the marketing director for the chamber. Was there for about 2.5 years as a part-time employee. And then some things changed and shifted and transitioned within the chamber. Took the interim director position at the chamber for a few months and then was hired as the full-time executive director after that. So yeah, a little bit of transition. But so that background for schooling has been advertising and public relations. So marketing is a big thing for me. So brand recognition and elevating that brand and speaking highly about the company and being that cheerleader. So I think that the position at the chamber has just been such a natural transition and fit. And I have loved every aspect of it, even like, yes, I'm saying this on camera, but even the financial part and the budgeting part of, it's to me, it's like a puzzle and figuring out how it's all going to work and fit together. And so what I thought I was going to hate, I'm like, no, I kind of like this. I get it. So,
In the right atmosphere, it's totally different.
yeah, absolutely.
And of course, you have a team that helps you with that.
Yeah.
And so that makes a big difference too.
Yeah.
I'd say, and a lot of people, not everyone, but there's a lot of people that overlook the whole marketing aspect of things, I guess company wise. I'm curious, when you were in school, how has it, technology wise, how has marketing strategies changed? Have you seen it change in recent years, I guess? And that's a loaded question, but.
So when I went through school and we talked about marketing, first of all, the programs that I used are no longer being used. They're, dinosaur age now. And everything was print. Everything was print media. And that was like, now I'm really dating myself here.
Kind of. I mean, maybe, but maybe not. I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
No,
that there was a main switch to the digital platforms.
Correct. And I appreciate that very much. But, they were just kind of starting to talk about newsletters and email drip campaigns and, print media and display advertising was very, very important. So how you laid out that ad or that piece was, those were kind of the focal pieces. And I think more importantly was the verbiage that you used. It was, you paid a lot of attention to grammar and to spelling, and then just how you talked about, how you wrote a press release, what words you used or shouldn't have been using to make that an accurate press release, and just the basics, the good foundational basics of marketing and public relations. Fast forward, the digital age is huge. I have been talking to people this week specifically about like how that has transitioned and how that has changed. And I think for the chamber specifically, it's important that we keep up on those trends.
Yep.
Because the more that we know and understand, the more that we can help our members. And following you or even incorporating that into our own toolbox so that we can support you through, those efforts. So it's something that is ever changing, always evolving, and it's really hard. It's exhausting almost to stay up with, but I think it's crucial. And I think that used correctly can be super beneficial.
Yep. And the reason I asked that is because even when I was in elementary school, I can think back to how different just media in general was to what it is now.
Right.
And companies being able to adapt to the difference of how it's changing and staying, trendy with everything is important to be able to reach those viewers that may not be doing what they, like 10 years ago were looking at certain things. So that's the only reason why I kind of asked that question.
Do you feel as if it's the physical job of advertising, I feel, has probably gotten simpler. However, it follows you wherever you go now.
Oh, absolutely.
So like used to, you could do a print media and it stayed at work. Now you grab, your device, it's everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So you get consumed by it. I think there's probably pros and cons. While it may be simpler to get out to a lot more people quicker and maybe even more effective, because I really don't think that most anybody does mailers or shouldn't, because I get mailers in the mailbox and I don't even read them. I throw them away, right? I mean, it's just it's a waste. Yeah. But I think there's just a total different mindset in it, and I think the marketing aspect is missed out on in ag in general. I don't think growers market themselves to the fullest level that they should, right? I mean, everybody's out here on a competing landscape trying to either grab ground or keep what they have or anything like that, right? I think there's a marketing piece that I'm not a good marketer, but I have, a decent team, that's around us and stuff. And I understand it now more and the importance of it more than I ever used to in the past, right? I think everybody needs to market themselves or their business, whatever they're associated with, to some degree.
Right. Well, that's an interesting concept. We just came off of the OP Expo, which was presented by our Economic Development Corporation, Greensburg, Decatur County, and that presented opportunities for businesses, organizations to be a vendor and then to talk or be in front of all of our juniors and seniors here locally across the county. And that's including North Decatur, South Decatur, and Greensburg. And it was interesting to talk to the kids because they sometimes don't get the connection. You have a child come up to you or you approach one of them and you say, what career path are you looking at? And they can tell you that they want to be in marketing, but they don't consider marketing in the banking world. They don't consider marketing in the ag industry. And so it was a really fun opportunity for us through that event to help be a connector for them and to get them to think outside the box a little bit and to think about different ways. And I think that kind of speaks to what you're talking about, that the importance of that marketing piece, no matter what industry you're in, is huge.
You
and
mentioned
even as an individual.
brand recognition.
Yeah.
Within a community, within whatever it is. I mean, you may farm 100 acres, you may farm 10,000 acres, right? Your image within a community and the job you're doing is how you portray it, right? Everybody goes out there and plants the crop. It is part of your image, and what you want to be portrayed is how do you take care of your roadsides? How do you treat the neighbors when you're around? That's all advertising. I mean, that's that all kind of lumps into that same thing.
And sometimes that's what sets you apart from everyone else. And it's no simple task. But those are the little things that'll set you apart from, competition or whatever it may be. So
yeah, if it's, well, you're going to do the same on cash rent as this guy is. Well, but, what are your values going back to your core values? What do you, are you a family run business? How do you advertise? How do you perceive? What do you got? Are you just slamming more, seeds in the ground and don't really care? There's a lot that goes to that, and I think that there's people that miss that, and it's even advertising, it ties back so full picture in every aspect, not in ag only, but I mean, I think that farmers in general sell themselves short in a role of that's one place they don't do,
Yeah, we've been talking a lot through the events that we've been a part of so far just in 2024, that one of the things that, and it's kind of segues with that marketing piece, one of the things that people I think are very, very tied into and are kind of grasping onto right now is community involvement. And that is marketing. You don't put the name marketing to it. No. But when people see a business, an individual, a company, whatever, with that community involvement piece, that creates a level of trust, and that creates a level of, your reputation, how you're perceived in the community, that give back. We teach our kids that, you want to give back and you want to help others.
Don't always expect to receive.
Exactly. And eventually it does come
I think
around.
It can come full circle. I do agree.
Yeah. So, that's one of the things that we're kind of seeing a newer trend. And I don't know that we've ever put terms to it and talked about it this way. But one of the things that we're seeing is that people are trusting and they're relying and they're trying out the ones that they see who are involved in the community. So the more that you can get your name out there, the more that you can be involved, the more that you can splash that logo, and not just to be showy, but to genuinely be supportive of others. It'll eventually come back around, and those are the businesses or the industries or the individual organizations that people will support first. Right. So yeah.
And I think that to go and to say that, it may sound, and maybe this is my I have blinders on or something like that. You wouldn't think it'd be hard to get involved in the community and do programs and stuff like that. But sometimes it actually is, because it's well, we were talking about, around Thanksgiving time, we're like, well, let's go Day of Caring, whatever it is, and stuff like that.
Day of Giving,
Day of Giving, something like that, right? And we're just all going to go out and go around the community, and it's like, okay, how are you going to, what are you going to do?
Yeah, we were trying to figure out what can we do?
What's going to be meaningful that you can actually do? And I don't know if that's something that, maybe at an upper level, within the chamber or something like that, be like, hey, let's actually structure this. So if companies like us, or individuals like us call and say, hey, we would like to care. Is there anything going on that we can, partake in, or you need extra hands at in 2 weeks or something like that? And maybe there already is. There maybe already is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But you wouldn't think it'd be hard, but it seemed like we struggled. And like, well, what is going to be, because everybody's got their own, I don't want to say their own timetables, their own calendar that it still has to fall into. Everybody's got businesses, and it all still has to operate, so it all can't happen on the same, same days. But I don't know, that it was a struggle, because you want to do this, but now what?
So I would say to that, definitely reach out to your chamber, because while we may not organize specific events, we have a pretty good feel for what is happening in our communities, and we can get you to the right person. So, as far as the Day of Caring or the Day of Giving, I would definitely refer anyone to the United Fund, to Joanne Cunningham at the United Fund. They're that organization that kind of, for lack of better terms, organizes that Day of Caring event. And it is the outside, so like, let's take the Decatur County Family YMCA, for instance. If they have a project, they're going to reach out to Joanne, and they're going to say, hey, we have this project. It's probably going to take this many people, and these are the supplies that are going to be needed. And then Joanne will help disperse people to those different businesses or organizations. But even further than just that one day or that 1 week, we have businesses and organizations that come to us all the time, and they want to be more involved in their community, which is amazing. So we will then lead them to, okay, well, have you thought about, Main Street Greensburg? We have the Holiday Walk. We have the Farmers Market that always needs extra hands. Those, the concert series out at the amphitheater, at Rebecca Park through Visit Greensburg. Those types of things we can help, steer you in a direction and help get you connected. And that's one of the best parts of what we get to do as a chamber, is we get to learn and understand what all of our different industry leaders are doing, what they have in their toolbox, and then we get to be that referral piece for them.
Gotcha.
So.